Today on the WEInvested podcast, we have Dustin Serviss, and he is the founder and CEO of Serviss Wealth Management. Dustin, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Wes. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to speak with you, and who knows where this will go.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And before we jump into it and get started, would you mind letting the people know how they can find you on the internet via your website or social media?
Sure. So servisswealth.com, and that's Serviss. And I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and you'll find also our podcast called The Picture of Wealth.
Mm, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And let's just kind of start from the top, man, and talk a little bit about, where you're from and where you grew up.
Sure. So I'm located in Western Canada, and grew up in sort of not rural, but kind of farm country in a town called Vernon. So again, great outdoor upbringing, lots of outside time. Screen time wasn't a big part of the program, and again, that's just a youth full of curiosity and discovering things, which leads to now, which is business and just staying curious about everything business related.
Absolutely, man. And how would you say that growing up in Western Canada impacted your outlook on life and success?
Well, Western Canada and guess maybe the Western U.S. and East U.S. is probably the same, where it's a little bit more relaxed. But I grew up in a father who traveled a lot and worked hard, and that was sort of ingrained in me from a young age of if you want to go somewhere in life or be successful, you got to work hard, really hard. And I didn't really know how hard to work, and so you just put your nose down and work hard, and that led to I got a golf scholarship in school, which led
Mm.
to taking civil engineering in university and finishing a diploma in that, and working in the Alberta oil field for a couple of years. And I couldn't keep off the computer where I was trading stocks, and people were asking me at work, what are you doing? And lost lots of money, but seemed to make more than I had lost. And I loved working with people and helping them set up their own accounts, in our group RSP at the office. So that led to leaving the oil patch in 2005 and getting into the finance space, where I was quite naive and thought, well, I want to be a stockbroker and drive a Ferrari. That was like my goal at age 22, and quickly realized in my first few months at the stockbroking firm I had landed at that they hand you this is no joke like the movies, but they hand you a book and it basically has postal codes, and they tell you, these are the postal codes you should phone because it's all the wealthy houses, and try and get their investments. Well, it doesn't go so well when you're so young. So yeah, that's a condensed version of how we've got to 17 years ago.
Man, that's incredible. You mentioned that you went to school for civil engineering, but an important thing is, and it is a word that you mentioned and said, is curiosity. So, you just kept that curiosity, um, and stayed a student of the game, continued to learn and continued to strive for more, and just to keep searching for more and keep searching for what it is that you wanted to accomplish and achieve, which I mean I think is incredible. Um, and I just want to transition to the company that you've built today and the company that you're currently growing and expanding. And I want to ask, what is Serviss Wealth Management?
Sure. So I will paint a picture of Serviss Wealth in a sec. I think it's important to know the transition for any listeners who are, thinking about entrepreneurship or want to go out and do their own thing. We used to work in an office, and again, it was oil patch in the 2003-4 when it was booming, and we would start at 6 a.m. We would work till 5 p.m. Then we'd go to the gym and we would eat, and then we'd come back. And there was about 4 or 5 of us in the office that would do this. We'd come back at 7 and work till 11, and then go back. You just repeat that, for 21 days straight. And when I took my hourly wage and I added it, I figured out that if I worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there was a cap. There was a cap on how much I could make, and that bugged me. It bugged me that I could figure out that cap because I thought I can't possibly work any harder. I'm already, working huge days, and the overtime's great, but I didn't like that. So, with the fact that I like working with people, and I just sort of, liked finance, I ended up in the field. And so, in the first few years, it was a struggle, a big time struggle. I went from making almost 6 figures a year at 22 in the oil field to making about 15,000 my first year in financial advising. So lucky I had savings, lucky I had a couple properties. So I was able to kind of keep it going. But the business that it is today is, similar to what it was before, but we would take on sort of every kind of client. And again, the predominant advice that we're providing is in the field of life insurance and investments, financial planning, retirement planning, estate planning. What does all that mean? Really, people are trying to, they have a financial goal, they have some sort of goal, and we're helping them achieve that. So that's a long-winded way to come back to Serviss Wealth as it is today is a, boutique financial planning firm designed for helping, people live more of their life now, yet be, financially responsible for their future. I'm not a traditional banker or a financial planner where, a lot of our coaching is around mental health. A lot of our coaching is around physical health. If you can be healthier longer, maybe have a better diet. If you're healthier longer, you could work longer. Doesn't mean you got to be on the grindstone longer the whole time, but maybe you could still work a bit into your 60s, maybe even to 70. Well, if you work longer, you need to save, you can save less. And if it means you need to save less, that means you could spend more now. So we're huge advocates of, spending, money, because a lot of the clients that we have on the top end, the wealthy, couple who's 68, 69 with $4 million of investments, they are not going to run out of money, even if they don't have an investments. So then when we ask them, hey, like, you could get by with 2 million. And so if you knew that you could get by with 2 million, would you have not worked 7 days a week for 30 years and maybe, pump the brakes a bit while you were working if you knew that 2 million was enough? And so helping people visualize, how hard do I need to work? And that's hard for people to quantify. We can do that with tools, and we have something called the Spending Accelerator, which allows people to see real time and into the future how much more they can spend a month now, and still be on track for the future. So that's again what we're up to now.
Man, that's incredible, and I think it's a really interesting approach to finances and financial services, because out of the people that I've interviewed, and I'm in the financial industry myself, man, but you're one of the first people that I've heard take the approach of mental health as well as physical health, which is something that I've never heard before. And I think that it will be something that people can understand, they can grasp, and they can get behind. That if you're, more of a healthy individual mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever the case may be, then you can be more productive in society. You can provide yourself with more assets, more spending, more breathing room. Man, I think that's a really interesting approach, and in a different perspective in the financial world. How did you come up with this ideology and this belief system?
We use a tool called the Life Clarity Summit. So again, I'm a big backcountry person. I like mountains. I like things. So we built this image of a mountain, call it. And on the bottom, you've got a plan. In the mid, in the lower middle, you've got your risk management. And in there, you've got a couple things. So in the risk management, mind nourishment and what you feed your brain and the beliefs that you follow impact your happiness. And so that's a start. And then as you get up into the accumulation zone, which is above risk management, where you're starting to build assets, you've gotten somewhere in life, you're making good money and you're able to save. But that is also the zone that you can get a bit sidetracked. And mental health, as we refer to it, is you may have, a lot of money, And then you get to age 60. And if your mind's not right, you potentially will have shitty relationships with your kids, maybe a failed relationship with your spouse, and maybe a horrible relationship with yourself. So when you think of like that as a form of wealth, it really cancels out, oh, that's awesome, bud, you got $2 million in the bank, but you've totally negated the rest of it. And so that's, relationship with spouse, that's a huge thing that we talk about. We talk about people's happiness in the form of, it was actually Neil Pasricha who wrote the Happiness Equation book, which is a great book for anybody. It's not heavy, but he uses it. I made the acronym, but he talks about it: spousal influence awareness. And so he talks about, let's say that or listener you are happy 80% of the time. So he's got this kind of chart and it's a scale. You're happy 80% of the time and your partner is happy 80% of the time. So he's got like an axis going up and down and you going left and right. And so when you match up, if you're both happy about 80% of the time, that means that 64% of the time you're both happy. So never mind the percentages. You get the idea. It's like 64% of the time you're both happy. And so where's the rest of the time? One of you is kind of off, and 4% of the time you both are angry. So 32% of the time you're in this sense of flux. So when do you think spouses should talk about big financial decisions? And usually that is a big moment for people where they go, man, I can't talk to my spouse about money. It could be the time that they're talking. There's just a wrong timing. So when you're both in sort of a happy state, whether that's a holiday, I talk about it in my podcast. My wife and I's place, as a safe space is a car road trip. We're both, in the car for 4 hours. We can bring up something and it's super awkward to have a fight for a long time while you're sitting in there. So you might as well just start talking about it again and get it kind of out in the open. So again, spouses and your mental health is a huge driver of your decisions and your happiness, along with being the sum of the sum of your 5 closest influences is you. And so that could be your ex-spouse, that could be your spouse, that could be your friend group. And so when you look at there's analogies out there of like your income is the average of your 5 closest people around you. Maybe it is. I just think that your attitude is probably the sum of the 5 closest people around you. So you got to be aware of those things, and that's not taught in a financial textbook. That's exactly. Not that the people at the bank, Wells Fargo, they're not talking about that.
Exactly, man. And I've heard a lot of different banks and private wealth management firms talk about how they take a holistic approach. But I feel like what you're doing is the real holistic approach, and just trying to help. I can just understand how it would build a deeper connection with your clients, because you not only care about their money and how it grows, which is, a huge important reason of why they're working with you, but just you get the chance to build that deeper connection and build deeper relationships by showing interest in the real care in their personal life too. And I'm sure that's something that your clients greatly appreciate. Something else that I'm sure your clients appreciate is the professional designations that you've acquired, to show that you're serious about your craft, you're serious about what you do, and you're serious about helping others. So you're a certified financial planner, you're a CLU as well as a CIM, which I'm not even sure I don't have those notes in front of me right now, but I know those are some important letters to have, and they hold value, they have value and they hold their weight. So why was it important for you to get these professional designations such as a CFP behind your name?
Sure. So it goes back to the start of when I was, at the stockbroking firm, making those cold calls. It was horrible. I ended up working with a large firm for about 8-9 months, and they were selling deferred sales charge mutual funds. And I remember saying to my division director, I wouldn't sell this to myself. So
Right.
how am I going to sell this to everybody else? So after, I kind of got through that, and I got my life insurance license because I did need to put food on the table. And I did all my investments front end load or fee based. And so that takes a long time before you make any significant real money when you're getting paid like that. So the next chapter of the let's say that my career was working with two individuals who were about 10 years older than me. And as I got into their firm, they had very minimal designations, but they had great relationships. So we had a stronghold in the dental market. And so my value to them was I tried to get as many credentials as I could, as fast as I could, to say to them, hey, I think you should bring me in on splits on these files. I will do all the work. I will build the plans, and you guys basically just open and close it. And so that's what we did for almost 8 years. So I was building kind of my own practice, but I also was doing a lot of work, in the environment of, I don't know what you guys call them in the States, but in Canada, we call them operating companies, holding companies, family trusts. That's the environment that I was working in. And like, where do you put the investments? Where do you put the life insurance? These people had active businesses. And so how do you balance all that stuff? So that led to those credentials. And the CIM is a chartered investment manager. That is basically I could discretionarily trade people's money if I chose to. I don't. I hire that all out to other managers to make the buy sell decisions on stocks. So it's just there as a backdrop to basically say that I do know how to do this. I choose to hire it out. But what that does do is when I'm sitting with a client and we are interviewing investment managers to manage their money, I'm on the same page as them, and I can ask way deeper questions than the clients are able to ask.
Absolutely, man. And I know that just adds an extra layer of um a feeling and a sense of security for the clients, just so they understand that, you know, my firm and my wealth manager knows their stuff. And it's that added layer of security for sure. But something interesting that I wanted to ask you about and learn more about is, this new wealth mindset. And what is the new wealth mindset, and why is it so near and dear to you?
So there's a bit of this shift comes from a story, and again, I'm open to share it. Is we had a lot of fertility issues, and it took about 5 years and 7 different in vitro treatments, and then it naturally happened. So it was very real. But in that zone of time, my philosophy was, I'm in business. The business and my work is what provides for the family, and that takes precedent over family. So business first, family second, because it wouldn't work any other way. And I had this, old belief that it couldn't be business and family. It was either or. And so that push pull led to major frustrations in my marriage with my spouse. And it got to a point where I was saying that I was going to do something about it, yet I wasn't. And one day I had organized the daycare. So my wife and I, used to work out before kids. We had our first son, who's, baby, and I'd organized daycare. I was on my way to work, and my wife was on the fritz with me, like just right at the end. And so I thought, I need to make this right. So I'm going to get daycare lined up at the gym, and then we're going to go work out in the afternoon, and it's going to be great. And so I phoned her, after I lined up daycare. I said, hey, take our son to the daycare at the gym. I'll meet you there, 4:30, and we'll have a workout together. It's going to be awesome. She was like, oh, I'm so thankful. Like, that's awesome. Like, can't believe you did that. I'm so looking forward to it. Fast forward through the day to about 4:45. I'm in the office and my staff are all gone home, and the office phone rings, and I can see on the call display it's her. So I answer the phone, Serviss Wealth Management, in kind of like a sexy voice, and I'm trying to be just funny. And she's like, are you not coming to the gym? And like my heart just dropped. Like I was just like, I totally forgot. I just completely forgot, because I had so much going on at the office and all these important things. So I jumped in the truck, I raced home. I tried to, make it home. And yeah, I haven't cried. I've only cried maybe about 4 times as an adult. And that was one of them where at the kitchen table, and I was scared. I was actually now like scared that this is for real. And so from then, it didn't happen right away, but over the next couple of months, I needed a plan. And that's where actually the spending accelerator model, the first one, was built. Is I built it for us. Again, I've been successful for a long time, and we've got money to save and all that stuff. But I had had us so tight, so we could save and invest. And it was my accountant actually that I had my spreadsheet up, and my wife was there, and one of the bones of contention was we had NSF'd our bank account like 3 times by about April. So in our personal bank account, we'd NSF it because I wouldn't pay us enough, because I wanted to keep all the money in the company so that you're not taxed on it by taking it out. So if you keep it in the company, invest it in there, and so you're not taxed. And so it was my accountant that said, hey, you got this model. You guys are stressed out, all this stuff. What would happen in your big fancy model if you took an extra 1,500 out of the company and paid the tax? Just pay the tax. You're going to pay more, but would that alleviate? And it was like, yeah, that would solve a lot of problems. And from then on, the spending accelerator model has evolved into sort of what a third or fourth version, but it now really is that clarity to say, okay, you're working hard, you're saving X amount a month. There's a couple things you could do. You could spend more. You could spend more in the business. So a lot of business owners that I coach and work with, the classic is I'm 6 days a week, 9-10 hours a day, and I can't work less or my guys wouldn't respect me. And so what I say is, hey, like you need to start taking like at least Saturdays off, and maybe even take all Fridays off. Not just like Friday for 2 hours, like take Fridays off and Saturday. And they'll say, well, no, like my staff wouldn't respect me. No, this business is not going to exist in the future. And you can tell them that they're all getting a 10 grand a year raise. So, again, a guy that I coached, he paid me $6,000 to figure out how to take Fridays off. And so we sat down, and he had 3 managers. And so I said to him, I said, hey, so-and-so, you are saving about 300,000 a year. So he was sending from his operating company to his holding company about 300,000 a year. I said, if you saved 30,000 less a year, would that really impact your savings goals? So you're going to save 270,000 instead of 300. And what we're going to do with that 30 is we're going to give your 3 managers a 10 grand raise. And we're going to say that's the so-and-so take Fridays off initiative. And you're going to be open with them. You're going to say, hey guys, I'm freaking burned out. I'm giving you all a raise to take more responsibility, and you're going to see less of me, but this business will survive and thrive. And so, that's, again, people don't look at it like that, but spending more doesn't necessarily mean, fancier Rolex or fancier rims on your car. It could be, a recreation property, on a lake or at a ski hill. Up in Canada, lots of people have ski hills. So, people say, well, I can't own that yet. I don't have enough money. Well, yeah, maybe you do. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to your question, but it's important.
Absolutely, man. And just, getting the chance to step back and have somebody else view your finances, or have get an outside opinion on the situation is always important. I mean, even for business owners, and even for people in the financial services industry themselves, and with their own wealth management companies, it seems like it paid dividends. It was a huge benefit to have your accountant there on your team to just help you realize, like, hey, it's okay to not veer away from the plans, but it's okay to add an additional thing to the plan, or it's okay to do something a little bit differently, which I think is an important idea that people should realize, that people should realize and not be afraid to utilize wealth management services, and have someone from the outside to just come in and provide that different or alternative perspective.
100%. I think of a story. You might get, if you ever heard in Vegas of exotics racing.
Yes.
Okay, so the story that I like to tell about, so we'll call him Steve, was my driving instructor. So I went to exotics racing, and so for anyone who doesn't know, or a listener, it's, you can race whatever kind of fancy exotic cars you want, Aventadors, Ferrari 458, whatever you want. So they give you an instructor, and so you think, well, yeah, of course, like they want you to be safe. Like if you went out there, you would, you could crash. Well, the reality is, if you went out there, so here's the story. So, you go around the track, he's driving, and he's screaming at you in the car. For one, it's loud. He's telling you up one, up one, up one, down one, full brakes. And the up one is shifting, and, you're heading, all gas, up one, he's just barking all these orders. And you're thinking, I got to start braking for this corner. And he's telling you to grab another gear and full gas. And so the cars can handle it. But there was one chicane at the track where it basically is an S turn. And so he said to me, as we kind of were coming out of the corner before it, he goes, when we go into this corner, I want you to go all gas through the whole thing and just steer it. And I didn't, because I just thought, there's no way that this will work. And he said, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to park the car and you're going to lose your laps. And I'm sure that's what he always says. But the next time we came around, he said, I want you to let go of the steering wheel, and I want you to absolutely just floor it through the whole thing. And so I did. And he reached over and he put the car through that corner. And again, this is probably a trick they do all the time, but he put that car through the corner in the perfect line. And what you're talking about the value of advice or the value of a coach, people don't realize that experience at exotics racing. So then after that, I hit that corner at full speed and went way faster through there than you thought. So having that person in there wasn't necessarily to keep me safe because they are worried I'm going to crash. Usually, for most humans, you will underdrive. So for most humans, you will underperform, or you will underinvest, or you will under risk, take on risk, because usually when people don't know something, they get more conservative. Mm-hmm. So my point of the story is, whether it's Steve or it's, you as a financial advisor or your accountant, 100% there is significant value there. And if you look at all the most successful people in the world, none of them did it by themselves. They all had coaches.
Absolutely, man. Every top tier athlete, Olympic athlete, they all have coaches. They all have trainers. They all have people who are on their team, and their sole objective is to help them improve and to help them to be better. And just kind of speaking about team and having the right people around you, I want to ask, what was the importance of you building a team, and how did you focus on accomplishing that task of just having the right pieces around you and the right people around you?
The example that just popped into my head was in the wealth space. Again, we're doing life insurance. So, there's a part of the process where, we talk about your plan, and I say that you should need this, life insurance. And so people say yes. And the next step is you have to fill out an application. That application has gotten a lot shorter now, but it used to be about an hour. We do a lot of company or corporate policies, so it takes longer because you got, just more tax issues, but that takes an hour. So in my head, if we were doing 150 policies a year, that's 150 hours of time that I'm on the phone, really just kind of doing admin stuff. And that was where I bought my first, licensed assistant in to do apps. And, the irony is, for it just worked out this way, but a female doing apps with a lot of, a lot of our clients are mixed male and female. But at that time, we had a lot of male blue collar business owners. And so that it just worked. Everything just sort of kind of worked better for leveraging the team, so that I was able to go up market. Again, we always had minimums for the investment, so it took a long time to build, but I needed to practice, and I needed to be sitting around people that that I should be spending those, whatever the hourly wage was. That's what you should be spending time doing. And I'm not saying I don't dive into the trenches, because I do all the time. In a small business, you have to. You'd like to think you'd have 70 different people for all the different things, but you don't. So that, and then on the side now, what we're working. So we've got a life insurance division that's sort of run by one person, and then we've now got someone who's halfway through their CFA investment designation to run the back end operation of the investment side of the business.
Man, that's incredible, and it just speaks to the importance of having those right pieces around you. It frees up time for you to be able to go make new connections, business development, and just grow the company and grow the company while your company is still being ran and still operating as it needs to. And it's just that time freedom, man, that you can't really put a price on. Just which is, I mean, you can't grow a successful company without it, without good pieces around you and with the right team.
It's
What would
it's
you?
the model of the spending more. So right now we're hiring 2 more people because I'm getting thin again on the time that I want to put into the business and the time I want to be with the family. And so again, we're putting those, hiring people is always, it's kind of a roll of the dice, but you try and do the best you can and try and find people who have the right attitude. And we had a major breakthrough for any entrepreneurs who coach people and teach people using a software. And again, I'm not sponsored by, or I don't get paid by, Loom. So LOOM.com. Hands down, best tool we've used for training people before they start. So before their first day, we pay them for a day. They watch a number of videos. So when they come in and we say, hey, we're working with XYZ software, they already know roughly what's kind of happening. And that's been a major game changer for onboarding staff.
Absolutely. What would you say have been some roadblocks or some lessons that you've learned throughout your journey as an entrepreneur?
Oh, patience. I
Mm.
always want stuff to happen now. And so, and not getting too caught up in I spent money on that to build my business and it didn't work. I spent a lot of money right before COVID on, again, coaches, weekly, meetings, a full business plan. It was, again, a certain kind of framework. We put all that in place. We utilized it for about 5 weeks and it was working. And then COVID happened. I pretty much forgot about it until about 2 weeks ago. And now, because I'm hiring new people, I want to give them a clear vision of where we're going, because previously it was just a few people. So it was pretty easy when you're meeting me every week. You kind of get an idea of where my head's at. But when you got more people, and those people are, again, I'll have almost a full staff of under 30-year-olds. Their brains they're curious. They want to know stuff. They want to, not maybe know all the details, but they want to kind of, can we get on board with this? Can we get on board with this vision? And so I brought all those tools out that I, paid a lot of money for. And I was quite excited this last week of like implementing that, because it's very concise and it's exactly what I wanted and needed to share with these people. So, I don't know if that's a roadblock, but more of a like being patient. I think like a direct roadblock along the way was, a positive and negative of leaving a partnership after 8 years with people. And, you've got, thankfully we work very well after the fact of like which clients go where. Because again, everyone believes that they have the reason for the relationship. And so, again, both my partners, or my ex-partners, I commend them and I commend myself for trying to work through each one very fair. And so that was more of just like a slowdown of like, but yeah, so that would be a roadblock, but also a blessing.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, at this point in your career and this point in the journey, how do you define success as an entrepreneur and as a business owner?
Oh, that's a great question. Just buy some time. It really is a balance of, honoring what you think wealth is at that moment. In your 18-year-old self, you had baked in beliefs of what success and wealth was. And I even have a bit of leakage now on, again, I have my, for anyone who can't see, this binder that's my goals binder from like 15 years ago. And every year I maps out some of the goals still on my list right now are that leaky kind of from when I was 18, materialistic items that, really I could go buy them if I really put money priority towards it, but they aren't they aren't signs of success. They were signs of success when you're 20, but they're not signs of success now. So now it's, from a business standpoint, how can we serve clients and then be happy, and how can we be profitable so that works? I do see a new interest and curiosity in myself in building, helping build the lives of my staff. And that's not that it hasn't been there, but it hasn't been the primary driver. I see it becoming more of an interest. And now, I'm 41. It's, I still got a lot of life left, but I do see sort of, okay, now it's time to maybe pass the baton a bit, relinquish a bit of control, and give someone else a chance. Because again, as much as I left my partnership, that was almost 8 years ago, and I was there for 8 years. Those two guys who were 10 years older than me, definitely, we shared in effort, but they helped me and helped fast track my career because I was exposed to way more sophisticated files than I probably should have been at that tenure. So if I can give that back to someone and fast track their program to, 6 figures or whatever floats their boat, then that's a driver of success for me right now.
That's incredible, man. And just putting the people first. You can never lose when you take that, when you have that idea and when you have that outlook on life. How would you like for people to remember you as well as this company that you've built?
Yeah, I think it's someone who wasn't shy to go, in bold places where other people aren't. I think it's someone who's very, always tried new things, never gave up learning. I think it's a big thing. I get often bugged about being obsessive about, new things. Right now, for the last 9 months, I've been into CrossFit. I'm just obsessed about it and research it and do all that stuff. And, maybe in a year I'm not into it. But right now it's fun. And I got a lot of social out of that. So, how do you want to be remembered? Likable guy, approachable, and a guy of his word. And that would be a pretty good summary in my mind.
Absolutely, man. And what does the future of service wealth management look like to you?
The future looks like, a lot of this, what's similar with more of a media approach. So right now I finished a book. We've got our podcast, The Picture of Wealth. We've done a couple courses. So really trying to, again, for a longest time, we had $1 million account minimum. And so that's great. And that's efficient for the business, but there's a lot of people who don't have 1 million who really appreciate, or when I, help them do something, I get a lot of sense of reward from that. And so if we can help more of those people in a profitable way downline, then that I could do with a course. Could be simple courses, could be mastermind groups. And then the book obviously is a mindset shift, and there's a whole series of books that are coming out. So again, I'm happy to focus there as much as focus on my existing clients, and then build out a team to make sure that we don't lose any of our customer service on the service well side.
Absolutely, man. And can we just talk a little bit more about the media side that you just mentioned, from the books as well as the podcast, The Picture of Wealth? And what is the idea and the vision behind the series of books that you're working on and creating and putting out?
Well, the series of books are catalyst books. Again, they're fiction books. I always find it easier in a story to learn a message. And so they're not deep jargon. They're not a how-to book. It's, you get to see a story develop and someone realize something and what tools they maybe use to make a change. So that came out of COVID. I'm not a big wine drinker. I'm not a big drinker to start with, but my wife would watch The Bachelor, and I would grab a glass of wine. I called it Wealth Wisdom Wednesdays, and I would just type and have this, this glass of wine for an hour or two. And so that, over COVID, that led to a 45,000 word book. And so that, has come out. The script's done, it's edited twice. So we should see that early next year in book form. But from that, there's people pick up the book, they maybe pick up the course, maybe they become a client. But again, I'm limited by licensing in Canada, and I want to help people all over the world. So to do that, you need to have media to reach people, and obviously being on shows and having my own show allows me to share that. And really, we have something called a wealth edge. So everybody has one. We'd say a carpenter's wealth edge is, they have skills with their hands. So maybe they shouldn't buy a 401k or a Roth IRA, or, you guys have all your different terms than us, but investment accounts, maybe they could do flip houses because they got skills, and that's a lower risk and it's within their circle of competency. Exactly. A dentist wealth edge would be their incomes are usually big, so they should hire out a lot of stuff. And so, everybody has, these edge. And so, my own personal wealth edge is connecting with people. And so, I'm able to connect with people. That serves me in my own life because we've got connections for lots of different things. If I need to borrow something, I save money by doing that. If I need to, get financing to buy a piece of property, I know that I could get that tomorrow, either from a bank or from a private person. So, I use those connections, and that naturally comes to me. So that's, an important part of the whole picture.
Absolutely, man. And I love the idea behind that, just that wealth, having that wealth edge. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's genius, and just really instilling in people to use their passion or use what they're good at to their advantage, to increase their wealth and grow their assets, and help them secure their future. Man, Dustin, thank you so much for your time today, man, and thank you for this information that you share with us today, man, and all great actionable information. So I just really appreciate you spending time with us.
You're welcome, Wes. I really appreciate being on the show, and all the things that you're doing for the investment education space as well.
Awesome, man.